Hello beloved, Satnam. I am so happy to be here with you. I just took a week and a half break from social media and from making videos because I caught a pretty bad stomach bug. So I am grateful to be here with you, healthy, making videos again. And before I got sick, I posted a photo just explaining a little bit about my abandonment issues that has been an obstacle in my life. The thing with abandonment issues and with similar issues that we carry with us either from childhood or even in our adult life, we can go from being a very secure person to having some trauma happen, which develops into abandonment issues, or I'm going to get into attachment styles. They can change. A lot of people will say, oh, it's how you were treated as a child, you must have had a rough childhood. But some people who have totally, secure environments growing up can later develop these fears and anxiety. Really, abandonment issues is a form of anxiety, and you can develop it later on in your life. So I'll share a little bit about my story, and yeah, the thing about it is that it can stay in your life forever. So it's really about managing this, and I'll share some tools that I've used, but it's really not about trying to get rid of these feelings and shaming them and seeing them as bad. So my personal experience, and now that I'm not shaming it, I can sit here and explain it because I don't feel guilty for having these feelings. But when I was in relationships when I was younger, I was with partners that would make me feel guilty for having these issues. So my abandonment issues come from when I was about 7 years old. My two siblings, my brother and my sister, ran away from home, and I felt like they left me behind. So they never came back home, and all of a sudden it was just me and my parents. And my parents were very preoccupied with trying to get them home, going to different court cases. They were always in and out of group homes and in trouble on the streets and things like this. So for me as a young girl, I felt very neglected and, of course, abandoned. So I didn't really understand this until my early 20s, when I kept choosing partners that were very abusive, emotionally and physically. And I really had to look at my life and understand why I was choosing the partners that I was, so that I could change and grow from that. So that was one of the things. And then I also had two partners die at a pretty young age, one and then another a few years later. And I have been processing it, but it takes time. The death of a loved one, especially when you're planning your lives together, it takes many years to fully heal from that. So that definitely didn't help in my healing process that I already had with my abandonment issues. So for me, the first thing, I think, is to find the root of them. So once I could recognize the root of these issues, I could understand them more and not just think, oh, there's something wrong with me, why am I like this? And again, the partners that I had would tell me things like, oh, you're so needy, because I had this fear, and when I tried to express it, they would put me down for it because they don't have that fear, they don't understand it. And once you find the root, the next thing I did was I started studying why I felt so attached to my partners. Of course, it's from abandonment. I'm scared of losing someone that I care about again. And I started studying a lot on attachment styles, and this is actually called the attachment theory. And if you're unfamiliar with it, there's 3 different styles. So there's anxious, which is what I am, and if you have abandonment issues, you're more than likely anxious. And then there's secure, and then there's avoidant. So anxious is how I used to be. And this is someone who, and I see it a lot I'm just generalizing, but I do see it a lot in females and female friends of mine who have had issues with their fathers growing up. Of course, it can be from a million different other things, but it's pretty common just in my own experience. So anxious is basically overthinking everything and feeling like if someone leaves you or starts pushing away from you, you've done something to deserve that, and you said something wrong, you did something wrong, and anxious is, should I text them now? Or, oh, they're taking 20 minutes to text back, maybe I did something wrong. It's really overthinking every situation and becoming anxious because of it, because you're scared to lose this individual. So what I used to do when I was anxious, I would choose partners that were avoidant. And avoidant is basically pretty self-explanatory. So an avoidant partner will push you away, and they're always the ones looking for reasons to not fall in love with you. Nothing's ever good enough, and they'll see you as needy if you're, they're scared of affection, too much affection. They see it almost as a weakness. And this type of person will always see the glass half empty in a relationship. So even if you're doing everything perfect, they're still going to find something wrong and push you away, because that's how they deal with their own fears. So unfortunately, we get in this anxious avoidant trap where this type of people get in a relationship together, and I had many relationships like this where it just caused me pain, a lot of pain and suffering, and feeling like there was something wrong with me because my partners would tell me I'm so needy and and they wouldn't communicate with me. They wouldn't hear me when I tried to communicate how I was feeling. They would just put me down for it right away. And these two types of people will almost never work together. So an important thing to do is to identify which attachment style you are. And of course, secure is just someone who openly shares affection. They're not playing games. They're not the one thinking, oh, I'm gonna wait to text this person, I'm not supposed to call them the next day. They love openly, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't destroy their world. They don't see it as their fault. They have a healthy perspective of relationships, and they're okay with moving on and trying again. So they haven't been traumatized like many of us have, unfortunately. So secure is incredible. If you're a secure person, or if you've met a secure person, that's amazing, especially if you're an anxious attachment style. Finding a secure person is almost like, it's definitely ideal in a relationship. And an important thing to note on this topic is, especially for anxious people or with abandonment issues, is to really remember that it's no one else's responsibility for you to be happy or whole on your own. So we tend to expect this from partners, to make us happy and to make our fears go away. And once we really realize that that is our responsibility, then we take our power back. So we're giving our power to someone else, and if they don't deliver, then we're in pain and we feel powerless. So really realizing, taking ownership for your own actions and for your own state of mind and your own emotions is taking your power back from that individual. The next step that's very important is self-love, and that is really spending the time alone. I had to spend years on my own, and I can honestly say that it was the most painful time in my life, learning how to be alone. I wasn't for a very long time, and I cried every day for a while because I felt incomplete on my own. But after a while, with self-love practices and taking myself out on dates and treating myself well and treating myself the way that past partners wouldn't treat me, and I was settling for not being treated how I felt that I deserved. So I started treating myself that way, and then you get on a different vibration. And when you truly love yourself, and self-love's also an never-ending journey, a lifelong journey. But when you are at the point where you do have a strong sense of self-love, then you simply won't accept certain behaviors. So at the point I'm at in my life now, if I meet someone, firstly, I am trying to rule out what their attachment style is. And this can be a little hard at the beginning of meeting someone, because we're all pretty excited when we meet someone that we're potentially interested in. So even someone who's avoidant might be really interested. at first. And if you're anxious and you're playing games where you're not texting back right away and you're pretending that you're someone else, which a lot of people do out of their own insecurities and fears, then you'll definitely attract that avoidant person more. But then when your real self comes out and your fears start coming and you're trying to express them, then that avoidant person will leave. And I've done this many times in my past, and now that I can understand it, I can see what type of person is and look for the signs. And then because I do love myself now and I'm in a really good place of wholeness on my own, I just won't accept those behaviors, and I know what way it's going. So even if I'm attracted to this person, it's not worth it because I've already gone down that road before, and I need to love myself first and not put myself through that again. And there is nothing wrong with what your attachment style is, no matter which one it is. We are just all different. You know, if we were all the same, that we wouldn't be beautiful. Our uniqueness makes us beautiful. So the thing is just finding a partner who is willing to accept how you are, and that's always important. You know, you can't fully fall in love with someone unless you're fully yourself. So someone who isn't shaming those parts of you, but who will sit and help your fear, and you can, clear communication is so important. I recently met someone and I told them right away I have abandonment issues. So if we're in a fight, and this is any relationship, not like a partner, even a friend who I care about. So if or like my siblings, if you're threatening to leave or do these things, it really triggers this fear in me. So I let this be known at the start of any relationship where I feel that it's being triggered, and then I can see, what is this person understanding about that? Are they willing to take a step back from their own emotions and understand that I have a fear that needs to be managed within the relationship? So ideally, that's what you're trying to go for. And again, if you're anxious or even avoidant, trying to find someone who's a bit more secure is definitely good. And you can move to other attachment styles within your life. It's not like you're stuck in that forever. But for me, I think I will probably have abandonment issues ingrained in me for maybe the rest of my life or for a long time. But I don't let it rule my life. I see it and I recognize it. I know why it's there, and I'm very discerning in the partners and the people that I let into my life. And the fear of abandonment is really, as I said, it's an anxiety disorder, really. It's anxiety of being left alone. It's anxiety of going through what you went through in the past, and it's trauma. So I would definitely recommend just learning some ways to manage anxiety. For me personally, pranayama, breathing exercises, I have some go-to exercises that really calms my body right away. I would look into kundalini breathing techniques. There's ways to just calm your parasympathetic nervous system, which slows down your breathing and gets you away from the fight or flight mode. So looking into that, looking into self-love practices, identifying what your attachment style is, and then identifying what others are, and choosing partners who are willing to put in a little extra work. There's nothing wrong with you for the way that you are, and don't let anyone make you feel that there's something wrong with you if you're too needy or you're too even pushing away. If you're ready and both partners are willing, I think that in almost all cases, with the amount of willingness, you can make it work. I'd also recommend seeing a therapist or talking to a coach, a life coach, or a relationship coach. It can really help to say these things out loud and get a second opinion. And again, I think clear communication and just being clear with your intentions at the start of a relationship. So where I'm at now, if I meet someone I'm interested in, naturally I want to not play games, but I want to not be so, because of my past, because people have told me I'm too available, because, I have such a big heart, I love so much right away, and it scared some people away before, that naturally I want to, like, you know, kind of play it cool, and a lot of us do that, and we'll play games and wait a while to text. So sometimes I have the thought of doing that, but then I realize, like, I can't make someone fall in love with me for someone that I'm not. And just stop playing games. Like, we see in magazines everything, like, you know, they put all these dating rules, and really there's no rules. Just be yourself, because you don't want anyone to fall in love with you for something that you're not, and then later on when you're emotionally involved, then, you know, you end up hurt because the true you comes out, and that's not who they fell in love with, that's not who they were interested in. So make your intentions clear from the start. I will sit someone down and say, this is where I'm at in my life right now, and maybe I don't want a relationship. Maybe I'm craving intimacy, but I'm not ready for commitment. These are things that, you know, we need to stop playing the games and be adults, because sharing yourself emotionally, sexually, whatever way it might be, we need to be able to be vulnerable with conversation and to open up in that way too. So not having that wall, and to make sure that we're on the same page so neither of us get hurt, because we don't want to hurt anyone, we don't want to be hurt. So I think these are the things that have really helped me, and I hope anyone who's watching, especially those struggling with their own abandonment issues or who have been in abusive or toxic relationships because of this, there's hope. So there's ways to manage it, and, you know, there's nothing wrong with you. Spend the time alone if you're feeling overwhelmed by anything. That is like my greatest advice to everyone. I wish I spent more time alone at a young age before I jumped into relationships, and I wish I figured that all out first. But it's the path I was on, and I probably wouldn't be sharing this with you now if I did. So many blessings to you all. If you have any questions, just comment below. I'll do my best to reply to all of them. And share your experience if you would like. I like reading the comments and hearing about your own experiences on this topic, how you're managing it as well, so we can grow together, connect together. Thank you so much for watching, and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Sat Nam, beloveds.